Welcome to a special stream. We are doing a non-Trinity MMO show about World of Warcraft. This is mainly Gotfuz leading it. He asked me to stream it. So this is going to be about World of Warcraft, Shadowlands. Yesterday, they decided to have a special thing about Shadowlands because they had postponed it several weeks due to other things happening in our society. They finally had it. So they showed it. So they had this thing, and Gotfuz says, let's talk about it. And so he wanted to do it last night. I said, I can't do it last night. How about Thursday night? Well, I'll give up my train night for this. I'm welcome to do that. So here we go. So I'm not going to talk anymore because this whole show is going to be led by the man on top in your screen. The one, the only, no longer pink haired. Thank goodness. Gotfuz.
Why you got to hate on the pink hair, man? Why you got to hate on the pink hair? It looked great. Okay? So we're gonna go over some, and if you hear a baby crying in the background, faintly, that's because there is one. He's getting put to bed.
Because that's Gotfuz crying about this whole event which recently happened.
There are some things in here that I am not happy about, but we're gonna go over some of the updates that actually came out, because the update that Ian gave, and even SirJahzeal, I think you said this, was kind of lackluster. It was kind of like stuff we already knew with like
we don't look at the camera.
Hints. Oh yeah, it was stuff we already knew about.
Yeah,
but hints of things.
It's things that you may have seen before.
And then a virtue signal just like shoved down your throat.
Can we look at the camera yet, or?
Oh my goodness!
Yeah, just off. Like it's like, here's the camera. Here's where his notes were. Like right here. He's just looking, just off enough. Like here's a streamer. Here's streamer. Here's right. Here's where he was. Somewhere down here. Anyway, first thing that we're going to be talking about is a live blog was done, an interview with Panda TV and Ian H. I'm not gonna. Can you guys pronounce his name?
Hazakostas, yeah.
Hazakostas. Save a wow. And the first thing that we have is the question that I love. I don't know how you guys feel about this, but corruptions in the pre-patch. There's going to be a large blog post coming, but corruption isn't just going to be going away in just Shadowlands areas, but it's going away forever. What do you guys feel about that? How does that make you feel when it comes to corruptions just being gone compared to old content?
Didn't know about it. I remember when Gotfuz mentioned it like a couple months ago. Guess what? Corruption. Like, oh, whatever. Okay, I'm not gonna high enough in the latest expansions to know about it. So I'm going to be quiet now and let the experts talk.
What about you, Jahzeal? How'd you feel?
I mean, I was grinding them like crazy before I quit. And it's a little... With the ability to, while you're leveling, still go through that expansion's content, it feels like they're taking that content away for people who in the future are going to be leveling through that expansion. However, when I'm going 10 to 50, I'm never going to go through that expansion. So realistically, I guess I'm okay with it because I won't notice it, because I'll be leveling through probably Wrath of the Lich King era or Legion.
Right.
So I mean, it doesn't make sense in that they're taking content that belongs in that expansion. If you do, God save you, if you do want to go through that expansion 10 to 50, but I'm sure there's somebody that doesn't know any better that may.
Right.
And what are they going to do with that? I mean, that part of it's gone. So I'm trying to figure out how. I guess it's going to be kind of like when they have made all the legendaries, like the cape from Pandaria and whatnot.
Okay.
Where they just took it out and said, okay, well, or not necessarily took it out, but just said, this is useless garbage now that you just put in your bank or delete it.
Right.
Like you can't even vendor it.
Yeah, like the text gets grayed out, kind of like it used to.
Right. So I can see it either way, but it is just it feels strange because it's so fresh and well, it's not really new, is it? We've had corruptions for quite a while now, but
Here's
uh,
something to think about. So the next tab, the next bullet point that's literally there is essences and Azurite armor will continue to work, except they won't work in the Shadowlands. So here's my thought on this kind of thing is you're not going to have corruption, but you're going to have essences and Azurite armor. So you brought up 10 through 50, which made me think if someone was leveling an alt and say they took their alt at level
mhm,
10 to the new, not to Shadowlands, but to BFA, got
mhm.
some corruptions, stacked them, and then went to somewhere better to level like Mist of Pandaria and just started going through and doing all of those world events, they could just Twilight Devastation everything down and power level.
That's true.
So I could see where that would be a problem. But if you're going to get rid of the corruptions, the essences and Azurite armor, you better. I know that on one of the other things, they said they're getting rid of the experience boost for um, what are they called? The gear that you could buy that has experience on it. I'm
Heirloom,
spacing them heirlooms.
right?
So maybe they're gonna add something that would make the heirloom gear so much better than even essences and Azurite armor. What do you guys think? Like, I think it's weird to have one kind of like you're saying to have that whole experience taken out of the story,
Mhm.
yet go through the story as 10 through 50 is kind of like it's gonna feel like something's missing. I know you didn't
Well,
get to do it, Ken, but how do you feel if something was like missing like that?
If you never saw it, how would you miss it? The one
What's
thing about
that?
you said, I mean, those who've been there who don't want it or who hate it are like, great, it's gone. Those who never
mhm.
saw it won't miss it, never hate it. So I don't know what they lose by having it gone. I think the biggest thing. So I don't know if we're going to actually go about the video itself. Okay, what got me the most about the video was like, yes, this is an expansion coming up. Hopefully, it's good, but it was underwhelming. And it's like everything about Shadowlands from that video is underwhelming. So okay, fine, corruptions is gone. Okay, the other stuff's gonna be there. Okay, but not in Shadowlands. All right, so it's almost like okay.
It's
Gotcha.
they kind of did this though. Just play devil's advocate here. No, this is we're all Christians here, but I'm going to be the devil's advocate just for a second. Ian the devil. No, don't tell him I said that. Anyway, he might get rid of my beta if I do get invited. Um, they did the same thing with the legendaries for Legion. Remember, they said, well, you can still get the legendaries, uh, but we're going to take away Mage Tower transmogs. You're only going to have till this date, and then that's gone forever. You will not be able to ever get those again. And then they took
Right.
away the ability to put any stats into those weapons. And if you already had them decked out, all those stats were removed. So it's just a pretty shiny thing at that point that, like I was saying, that we're going to do now. It's just something you collect and then you put it into your bank. You're only going to use it for a short period of time, and there's really no reason to use it. And
Right.
as far as what I had heard, the heirlooms are going to change slightly, but they are still going to be relevant and still be useful in the leveling experience. So hopefully that's true, because I mean that was an awful lot of money that those of us who did purchase those and work that we went into, because I literally purchased every single one because got OCD. Everybody knows that. And I have to have all of them. And I got the fishing ring, and I got I got everything.
Yikes.
Yeah, I did the PvP ones and the ring and the trinkets. Yeah, so I man, to have those also be grayed out would be just horrible. But the thing is, I could see them doing that because they're saying, well, look, you don't need them. Leveling is what's the number that they're giving out now? I think it's 70% faster
Yeah, it's gonna
than
be
it is right
ridiculous.
now. It's going from 200 and oh gosh, I used to know this off the top of my head, 259 million or something like that points to like 2 million or something like that. It's like something way ridiculously smaller.
Yeah, they're
And as
saying
we saw, there's speed.
60. Oh, go ahead.
What is it? No.
60 to 70% faster from 1 to 50.
Oh, okay. From 1 to 50. So, I mean, do you really need those heirlooms at that point? Because that's more than the bonus that you get from the heirlooms. Just automatically by default, you're getting more of a bonus to leveling naked without having the heirloom. So if you had the heirloom stacked on top of that, then and especially if they still have those potions available to us that we had through Warlords of Draenor and forward, I mean, you're going to be level 50 within 3 hours.
Gotcha. Yeah. One of the thoughts I wanted to kind of go off of here
Okay.
is Ken, and being underwhelmed with and I agree. That's kind of why we're going over the live blog post of
Okay.
the other questions that we're going off. But to bounce it off you, do you think it would have been better if they would have maybe, because it's obvious that they didn't, inquired from streamers and people who play the game, what are the hot things that we want to know about Shadowlands rather than what they think we want to know about Shadowlands?
Well, I mean, the thing is, though, is that everything you kept pointing to me the last month or so, or 2 months about alpha, you got my interest of like, okay, I will play Shadowlands. This looks really cool. The things you talked about, okay, all the excitement. Now, mind you, I could have been feeding off your excitement, but it was like all really good. And then I watched this video, and I'm like, this is crap. I'm like, okay, so you're making changes. That's good. You're making changes, but you so underwhelmed me with this video. It's like, oh, guess what, guys? Beta's next week, and we're releasing it in the fall. And then here's Ian for the whole thing. And it's like, da 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 da. And I'm like, okay, so you're doing all these changes to World of Warcraft, which is like, okay, so you're just making another game, okay? So you're trying different ideas, whatnot. Where is the excitement? The things that like, well, look at this going on, man. Look at all these cool things. I mean, the four covenants, right? One of them is special ability is you can create a party. You can invite people to a party. I mean, is that really hear that right? Just one covenant is you are a party host and you can party versus the necro guy where you can just basically raise the dead and have an undead army. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm just sorry.
SimCity, it's like Sims basically for the undead. You get to make your own abomination, which that's really cool. Yeah, the party thing I thought was like a little silly.
That
when it
sounded
comes
really
to
lame. The thing is, we've been around WoW. Well, us three guys here, we've been around WoW for a long time, and Ian has never been a very dynamic, energetic speaker, either publicly or through online. They really, again, Ian, I know you're not watching this, dude, but you guys need to find someone that has that special twinkle in their eye and it really can reach out to the people, because he's so bland, and just the way that he was, we mentioned it already and it'll probably get mentioned again, but the way that he did, he I think I counted twice that he actually looked up to the camera, and it was while he was doing the BLM thing at the very end. Which again, we'll probably try to avoid that part of it. But just for algorithm reasons, um, I miss the days of like Lore being his little sidekick and whatnot, because he had someone else that had a little bit more energy to kind of bounce things off. And even though I think there was a little rivalry there, and I've definitely seen Lore in the past, which is probably why he's not on with them anymore, say some speak out some objections to Ian. But we won't get into drama. This isn't the drama club here, guys. They definitely need someone that's a little more PR oriented. Maybe, that's studied public relations, is good
Right.
at public speaking and getting up on stage during BlizzCon and during all the different major cons around the world, not Dragon Con, but the one in Germany and Gamescom, all those other ones that they have play a big part in, that they can have someone that actually makes you excited for it. Because I think there were some nuggets of things that most of it we had heard before, but there were a couple of nuggets in there that could have probably been more exciting and got our
Right.
appetite kind of going a little bit for the expansion if he was excited about it. But he just seemed like, I've been working 16 hours a day, 6 days a week for the past 4 months. Somebody shoot me. That's what it felt like. I
Right.
told
Right.
I told Fuzz earlier, I was like, dude, I could only watch it in parts. And I had to go back and like rewatch it, and I could only watch parts because it wasn't necessarily cringy. It was just worse than Ferris Bueller's Teacher.
Well,
That
yeah.
monotone.
Well, he starts off with the Shadowlands Alpha. It started 3 months ago. 817,000 quests completed. 2,000 veterans to exiles reached. 62,000 Torghast runs with 11,000 victims of the Tarog RIP.
You're being more excited.
64,000 in-game bug reports. Countless invaluable feedback. I know I'm doing more. I'm like,
oh, I was like, that's way more energy than he put in it.
64,000 bugs, okay, which will all be fixed by the game starts,
No, they won't. I saw what happened with the last expansion.
That's what he
No,
said.
they won't. No. No.
I mean, so let me ask you guys, because I'm sorry, Gotfuz, but
No, you're good.
he first thing he went into after he started about this whole battleship, he talked about soul binds. Now that I hadn't heard about before. I don't recall, soul binds were interesting. You bind yourself to somebody else, another undead person, but apparently an NPC. You don't get a choice. Right. I can't soul bound myself to SirJahzeal, okay? It has to be some pre-made NPC, correct?
Right.
But does that excite you guys?
Well,
it's just another way of getting a bonus like we did with our legendary weapons in Legion. Really, it's just an extra buff that you'll get on top of whichever covenant that you belong to.
Right, yeah. So the soul binds are to the covenants themselves.
Well, no, there's
no, they're separate.
Like 3 NPCs, right?
All the covenants
in
have this
covenant?
ability. This is not special to a covenant. These are all covenants have the same ability to form a soul bind.
I thought that there were like 3 legendary characters with each covenant, and you could choose one to get your bonus from.
So from what I'm seeing, like I'll throw the link in your guys' one because they're updates to soul binds themselves and conduits. So soulbind conduits, like the mage gets arcane missiles, reduce the cooldown of arcane power by 0.1 second. And then of the arc, and that's of the prodigy of the archmage. So I'm guessing there's like different people in your covenant that you walk up to that you bind yourself to, and you get this.
Right.
Or it kind of, I think the conduits honestly are like a little talent system that you could use. I think from what I'm remembering, right. This one is interesting. Your arcane barrage has a 10% chance to grant 2 arcane charges. So they're going to be, I'm pretty sure this is the one where it's like a little talent system, and it's kind of like glyphs and essences, basically.
That's fair. Yeah.
And what they're saying is there's going to be instances where certain glyphs or certain conduits, same thing, are going to be better for AoE, and certain things are going to be better for single target. But yeah, it's not going to be like you bind yourself to a specific homie who's your friend. but instead it's going to be something that is, as you gain favor with your covenant, you gain little like conduits that you could put into this system, and then from there you continue to go to more and more powerful things. But to stay on track, I think you guys are hitting on something when it comes to Ian needs someone who's energetic to replace him. Maybe he could be in charge, but maybe have someone who's like, I don't know if you guys have ever watched the Nvidia announcements for their graphics cards. Their CEO is
Yeah.
like all over the place. He's
Right.
energetic, and he doesn't just say, we've done this many beta tests and this is how many bugs we've looked at and fixed. It's like, we've done this many beta tests, we've done this many bug fixes, and what we're trying to convey, because you have to say it for the dumb people in the back, is we're listening to your feedback. We heard you, BFA and Legion, we did not listen to any feedback before we threw those hot messes out, and they were basically betas when they were released and then finally fixed. But here we're listening to
He said that.
your
I
feedback.
mean, he did mention that they're listening to feedback a lot, so that was a good thing. Just
his way of conveying it was like,
yeah,
woo!
woo.
We're
Yeah.
so excited.
There, just to be fair though, a lot of the things that he was saying do look like they were being pulled more from Legion than from BFA. And it does sound. I think that they see that the majority of us did not. I mean, this is putting it really lightly for me. I won't speak for the rest of you, but BFA was definitely a miss. That's not one that I'd care to revisit ever, really. I mean, there was not even the transmog or anything was really that great to me. So I think that in that way they did listen. Hey, everybody seemed, well, not everybody, but the majority seemed to really enjoy Legion a lot. They hated BFA. When we're developing this one, let's go back to Legion. What was it about Legion that they liked? Or let's not pay attention to that. Let's just take those systems and put them over into this new one, and we'll just, hopefully they'll like it and not notice the lack of attention to detail. I don't know.
Right. So one of the things that Ian said, and I didn't grab the interview, but I was going to bounce it off you guys, is he said that they want the covenants and signing on to them to be a bigger impact to your gameplay. And what they mean by that is there are big things you do when it comes to impacts to your gameplay, such as choosing your class and choosing your race of your class, that can't be easily changed. But there are things that when it comes to your talents, your enchants, your rotations, what gear you wear, that are easily changed, that are the minor changes of the game. They said they want the covenants to be something you identify with just as much as you would your classes, almost like, and he said, I quote, like a subclass. How do you guys how do you guys think people would have felt if he would have said introducing these covenants, which essentially give you a subclass, which you have all been asking for since Burning Crusade? You think people would have been happier if they would have even just said subclasses?
Unless they're afraid they can't contractually say that, or I don't know. But I mean, the thing is, like he mentioned a lot about the covenants and the fact that they're basically a lot of things you see are similar, but you have a choice of choosing which one that will deviate off. That's why I mentioned about the dancing, right? So you can choose to be your own character, to have that subclass. So you can be your druid, your night elf druid, and then subclassing to dancing. I suppose if you want to.
I forgot to ask them. Whatever happened to the dance studio? Hold on, I got a message, Ian.
Right. Very important, right?
Weren't they going to do that like 4 expansions ago? You could put your own dance together.
But he talks about, here's I think read that video, right? So means is unlocking the entire sphere of gameplay and content. For you, what we've seen so far in alpha really is just the tip of the iceberg. Kind of what you were saying.
Right. Yeah, and I linked to you the what the soul binds and conduits look like. So it is 3 different ones for each covenant. So you get into the covenant, you'll get a covenant ability, and then within the covenant ability and those 3 different choices you get covenant conduit that you go through and you get as well that can be changed out. But once you change it out, it's destroyed. Um, kind of like taking essences and mixing it with glyphs, kind of like I mentioned. It's kind of a different system. One of the things that was brought up was, and it's kind of getting ahead of the thing is that someone asked, will these abilities be used in all aspects of World of Warcraft? So PvP, arena, RBGs, mythic pluses, everything. Can you use these abilities everywhere? And Ian's answer was yes. These abilities are going to be able to be used everywhere with the goal that some will be better than others in certain situations. But because this is an MMO, the understanding is nothing is going to be perfect in every situation. So I know you guys
Okay.
don't do much PvP, but I'm sure you guys do a little bit of world PvP. How do you guys feel about some of these new abilities? Do you feel like you're going to be swayed at all? Because I know you guys are more PVE and quest kind of people. Are you gonna be swayed by which one has cool abilities? Or are you guys more feeling about the RP and the lore of each one? How do you feel, Ken? We'll start with Ken. And we'll
The ability more than the lore.
ability more than
Um,
lore.
just because, I mean, what's the best that goes with my class? I have not decided what I'm going to do when I get back into retail. Am I going to take my druid and push it up to push it to where it goes? My top level or do I start a character all over again? You know, I had a what was I playing? I was playing retail just now. I forget what I was playing. But anyways, I'm just gonna go with the build with this cool. What's the cool ability that goes with my class? I don't care if the lore or anything else. What can actually accentuate what I can do with the talents I have now?
Okay. And Jaziel, are you feeling more of the RP when it comes to some of these zones and these covenants? Are you feeling more like I want to optimize my character, kind of like Ken is when it comes to what's going to be the best in the most circumstances?
I'm still going to. I mean, I kind of been talking about it on my live streams a little bit that it's somewhere in between. I'm not really thinking at this moment. It could change by the time that it comes out, but as of right now, I'm not thinking, doing progressive mythic rating or anything like that. I don't think I'm going to be. Could change. It could change, but I definitely am a min maxer, and I love to tweak and try different things and see what works best. Not. I will go and research on websites and whatnot to try to see what other people have found to be good for them. But ultimately, I like to see what works better for me. And sometimes what works for me is different from other, builds that are more popular.
Right.
I know, my main character that I was playing, and more than likely I'll go back to him. Although I do have some objections to some changes being made to the warlock. That I don't know if I'm going to like the playstyle or not as much as I was enjoying it. We'll see, but that's my plan right now is to go back to the warlock and just play around with the different specs and with the different traits and whatnot, and see what I can get out of them, and really try to be the best that I can, so that I want to run the dungeons and I definitely want to run the raids, but I don't think I'm going to be hardcore about it. And what I'm really the most interested in is the lore, is the story, what's going on, where's this going next. That's always been kind of the thing that's kept me with World of Warcraft has been the story. Um, Although the retconning in recent years with the Chronicles being released kind of annoyed me a little bit, but I understood why they did some of them because, you know, way back when they were first doing the game, they weren't thinking ahead as much as what I think they do now as far as the story goes, and
Right.
so they made some mistakes along the way that they had to kind of correct in hindsight. But you know, I as far as PvP, you know, I do Battlefield or Battlegrounds and whatnot, but yeah, I'm not like that's kind of my something I do on a weekend when I'm got a couple of extra free hours and I'm a little bit bored maybe and don't feel like grinding whatever element that we're grinding at the time.
Right.
So we'll see. I do foresee some major class balancing issues. Just over the class changes that I've seen, some of them are really drastic. And I've tried to rate through that list of changes so far, and it's so long, dude.
Yeah,
I think you could
there's a lot.
yeah, you could probably sit there and read it for about an hour. There's so many changes, so I haven't read through all of them. Mostly just the ones that I play mainly, which are the caster types. And
Okay.
so I I am worried for PvP that some of those are crossing over and worrying about class balancing and certain types being way too powerful. I'm sure they'll work on them after release, but it's always a concern, and it's always something that they're going to be working on. That's just one of the bad that we take with the good with MMOs is class
Right.
balancing never ends. So we'll see.
Yep.
I'm kind of optimistic though. The changes that they are making do seem to be taking us back to being more friendly to people that are wanting to role play and really get into the role of their character as a mage, as a warlock, as a paladin, a warrior, whatever, and getting those buffs back is pretty awesome too. So
Yeah. So something that I'm thinking, I'm kind of like in the middle of both of you guys because I feel like
mm,
I definitely want to do what's most optimal, especially to PvP. PvE, if they bring back the ability to um, make up for the skill gap between you and other people, uh, and outperform people based off of your performance, and it's not a class or proc based system to where if I'm a death knight, I'm never going to beat a really good rogue of lower skill because he's a rogue. Then you know I'll be very happy with if they bring it up to your skill is your skill, you do your rotation well, you'll beat people who are bad at the game, and that'll kind of dictate me leaning more towards PvP covenant abilities, because I like PvP more. If it's absolutely essential because I do mythic raids and I do mythic pluses with my guild, then I will go for those covenant abilities at least for that because I know that you could change it. So I'll change it for that and then do PvP. So like spend like a whole Friday, I guess, redoing my covenant stuff and doing all the quest line to go get back and happy with them, and then come back and PvP on the weekends or something because they did say you'll be able to change it, but you're gonna have to like gain their trust back. So you're gonna have to change it, do a quest, get the reputation back, and then PvP from there. So moving on to the next thing though, here's something that I thought was amazing for alts and something I absolutely hated about the expansion Legion. I really didn't like Legion. I know a lot of people did. I absolutely disliked it because I felt like it was starting to make the move towards a certain way of the game. But here's what they're doing for legendaries: you're unlocking a recipe by taking it to the Rune Forger. This is after you do the Maw. Recipes are account wide. There's a certain ability, Sephuz is, if I'm saying it right, triggers off of CCs, dispels and interrupts, which seems more like a PvP thing. So that recipe might drop from PvP. So it seems like they're hinting at that. But then they said there's a Fire Mage legendary that has a chance that required a 4-second cast, which seems more like PvE, even though GPI is, I think, 4 seconds. So that might drop from PvE content. So what they're basically saying is with this, alt-friendly legendaries are coming to the game. Like Diablo 3 status legendaries that you can give and make for your alts, so you don't feel like you're so far behind if you want to swap to a new character. I'll start with
That's
Jahzeal.
good.
How do you feel about a legendary and not having to run around the zones, mass farming like you did in Legion, hoping and praying that you'll get the right legendary and not the useless one?
I think they went the wrong direction with that.
Ooh.
Instead of making it tradable, why not just make the RNG custom to your class and spec? And that way, my warlock is not getting something that my druid needs, and vice versa. Because that
Okay.
was what was happening to me, and okay, making it tradable, I guess that works.
So they're not
But
tradable, they're account bound.
They're account bound, right? I don't. You know, I'm saying I don't like it right now, but the thing is, when I get into the game and I get a recipe for something to take to the forge, and it's not good for that character, but it's going to be good for one of my alts, which you all know I've got alts all over the place.
Right.
I'm probably going to change my tune.
So if you get Thunder Fury and you're playing a paladin, and you're
Right.
like, you know what, I'm not feeling paladin anymore, but warrior, that warrior looks fun like to play, and I got a Thunder Fury I could make for it.
And it might even make you want to change what you're playing. I don't know.
Right. What are you
yeah,
thinking?
we'll see.
Good idea.
Jahzeal, you think so?
Yeah.
Jahzeal, you like it? Yeah, you're starting to lean towards it, Jahzeal?
My immediate knee-jerk response was no, I don't like it. But yeah, now that I kind of talk myself out of that and into the other corner. Yeah.
All right. Sorry for cutting you off there.
I think it'll be okay.
Okay. Ken?
Yeah.
Well, I was thinking, it not being an expert on any of these games, totally right, but playing them. Final Fantasy 14 allows you to have one character, and you can do whatever you want with it. You can be what, and of course, based upon your gear and whatnot, you can become anything you want. So you don't have to worry about creating new characters. I can help. I think that this is a great way that if it's like this, where it is like buying to the account, that allows you the opportunity to play it or play any other character with it too, which is good. Gives you the opportunity to actually not have to go, oh my gosh, you got to grind it all over again. I mean, I've heard people talk about. I heard Shadzeal talk about a lot about things about having to grind things all over again. I mean, even when you're playing like ESO, sometimes you still got to like, people do the same run, the same dungeon over and over and over again just for that one loot. And you get into a dungeon. It happened in WoW, okay? You get in a dungeon and you're running it, and all of a sudden you hit the first boss, and they all leave because that's all they wanted was the loot from that first boss. So I'm like, So if we had a more count wide, it'd be a lot easier or a lot less of people. But then again, hopefully you don't lose people who will help you do dungeons now.
Right. So this is all from Torghast, or not Torghast, but from the MAW. This is going to be from your you're doing this content, the new content that from what I've watched looks like tons of fun. All of the really game breaking kind of things you wish you could have done in the game with hacks are going to be in this content. So like there are crazy things like your Blizzard as a mage does 1000% damage and is an instant cast, but you're going up against mobs to where if they touch you, you die. So like you get to do these crazy kinds of things, but it's changing the dynamic of what you're playing, but you still get to play with the same tools, just a different set of rules. And it's going to be replayable from what they said. So I really like the idea of these legendaries, of me maybe going in on a tune that I'm more comfortable with and grinding a whole bunch of legendary recipes to then use for my alts on a later day. So I feel like they're taking, if they're going to make legendaries not legendaries anymore, essentially, and make them like this, I feel like this is way better, to where if they're essential, at least make it to where we can get our alts what we need and move on when it comes to that. Yes, it is me shadeless. They did say that, so the way Torghast works is the higher in Torghast you go, the legendary materials from all the floors below it, kind of like if you guys have ever played Destiny, or not Destiny, but Diablo 3, if you do a certain tier key, right? You put the key in, it's a certain difficulty. So Torghast has floors. If you go up to the 10th floor, let's say, you get the loot materials from all the floors below it too. So I think that that's just like a, not much we could say from there other than that's what is expected, right? To get the, I mean, if you're going to something that hard, to get the recipes and the materials from all the floors below it kind of makes sense. And what they said on the last bullet here is legendaries in Shadowlands are going to be earned at a faster pace than how Legion legendaries were launched. I don't know about you guys, but it took me on my Warlock, I want to say a month to earn my legendary. It was the patch day after they increased it for the second time. Ironically enough, I got the worst ring in the game for DPS, but and that was what really made
You
me angry.
know, you call that a bug, but I'm sure Blizzard calls that a feature. It kept you in the game all those months, paying the subs, grinding. My only thought was the fact that if you do now make these things, well, they're going to make an account wide, you will have people less grinding, people who will less be doing dungeons, less in the game. They're like, oh, I got it done, so whoop, I'm up somewhere else. Squirrel.
Well,
I
I
don't
do
know.
have a counter to that, because when I played Mists of Pandaria, I had, and Kata, we'll go with Kata. I had a 5 or 6 tunes that were all rating in the, what is the dungeon for Deathwing? Oh man, I'm spacing the name. But
Deathwing.
they were all doing
Not
death rank.
Naxxramas, Deathwing.
Talking about the spine?
No, not the actual dungeon.
Oh, okay.
Or you
the
fly in the air. The one is you always got to fly around.
No,
Jump
the
the guy's
instance is
back.
called something, or the raid is called something. I can't remember. It came after Firelands. I didn't get to raid in Firelands. Everything got geared by Firelands, but I actually raided and was able to kill Deathwing. But
Hmm.
I had 5 characters fully geared for PvE and PvP. And that was the thing, is even though I could finish one character, I didn't feel like, and this is something that they said, is they don't want you to feel like if you go to play an alt, you're falling behind. They said that in not this interview, but the interview prior, that he says you're gonna get to a point in the week where you feel like you're done. You don't have to play this character anymore, and you could be playing something else. So with that in mind, with this kind of legendaries update, are you guys excited for the idea that you can play alts and not feel like I'm not grinding my essences and corruptions that I need right now, like in this instance? How do you feel about Jahzeal? Do you feel like you'll be excited to play an alt, like you're not feeling compelled to play your main?
That's was absolutely an issue with when I left the game. I felt like I couldn't play any of my alts. I had to keep trying, like I said, the corruptions and all that. I had, especially with the fact that during that time period, well, even now, what am I talking about? I had a lot less time to play, so I was already feeling like it was a job. It felt like a job. I wasn't playing it for fun. I don't think I was having fun at all, which is why I quit. That's why I dropped my sub. I felt like if I missed doing any of that content with my main character and only my main character, that everybody else who I was raiding with and still helping them get caught up, I was gonna get too far behind. And again, the issue with that is I play, for a lot of social reasons. I want to be able to keep up with my friends, and I don't want to be a hindrance on them. I don't want to feel like a third wheel kind of situation where I'm holding them back from doing mythic, and trying to clear that, and because that's is their enjoyment, and at that time it was my enjoyment as well. Raiding was my bread and butter. That was what I enjoyed the most about the game, and I knew if I slacked it all on my character and went to play an alt or level up a new character with like when I started that new one up for I would rib Shadeless. I don't know if he's still here or not, but I rib him enough. I started a new character to play with him, and with I started a new one to play with Kennethan, and Kennethan actually showed up. That was nice. So no, Shadeless did too a couple times, but anyway, I'm going to say this, and Kenneth and Shayless, I hope you guys don't take it wrong, but I felt like when I was on those alts, like what kept going through my head is there goes half an hour, there goes an hour, there goes 2 hours that I should have been working on my main character. I'm getting behind. My buddy Steve, my buddy Colby, and all those other people that I raid with, they're working getting that stuff, and I'm going to be so far behind. I'm going to have to stay up till 2-3 o'clock in the morning to catch back up to them. And if it's reset day, oops, that's gone, and so for me, I'm excited about this. That when I read that they're going to make it so that there is definitely, it's not a forever thing. You get a certain amount each week, that's it, and you can go do whatever else, or go play another game even, I think is the way that it was put in one interview. And I don't think they really meant, I don't think they meant another game off of Activision Blizzard, guys. I think they meant go play Modern Warfare and give them some more money for loot boxes or whatever, loot crates.
Or Red Dot.
Or Red Dot. But there's just more to come, guys. There's more to come. They're working on new games right now. So
You mean new?
Yeah, well, I forgot the bunny ears. Sorry, guys. I stand corrected. Gosh, I'm so mean to them. They are never going to give me free tickets to BlizzCon again. So I'm happy about that. I think that's great that I can get to a certain point, and also that gives you some joy. That kind of feeds the brain a little bit, feeling like, oh, I conquered it. I got everything I need to get this week. I can relax. This weekend, I can go play around on my warrior, or I can go, get on my road and go PvP with Fuzz, or do something else to break up the monotony, and feel like it's okay. I can do that. I can go have fun and just mess around right now, and go collect transmogs or pets or mounts or those other things that we all enjoy doing on the side, without having that looming cloud over my head that I'm getting behind.
Right.
Yeah.
You can.
Well, that's a very good point. I mean, I did kind of feel guilty at times when you made a character and play with me, because I knew, you couldn't be on your main. The idea of people having to be able to do an alt as a more regular basis is a good idea, because you got to be able to. There's so much in WoW, so many different starting places, so much content, that to stick with one character and you got to grind, and never get a chance to try something else. To be able to jump into the other parts of this. I mean, the game was 15 years old now. It's got so many different areas to try out, so many different things to see. So why not make it easy to have it all so you can do these things? And I had never appreciated the fact that you mentioned how much you're right about. I've tried to keep up with my free company in Final Fantasy 14, because I didn't play as much as they did, and I always felt bad because I was always behind them. And so if you same thing here, is like if you're the opposite side where you're grinding, you get up there, and now you gotta help someone else out. And you're like, well, okay, well, it'd be nice if I could make that alt, make it really faster to have, or even just have the main. I mean, this might be one of those enticing things. I mean, I already liked the. I want to go back to what I make some comments about the fact that I like what they're doing in Shadowlands. I like that they're squishing people down to 50, and you got level to 60. That you can try. You got these new starting areas, kind of, and you have the way they're doing a much more tutorial, tell you can understand how to get to play the game. They have different content to allow you to do. The fact that we are doing a Lich King Part 2, because I mean I love Lich King expansion, and this whole idea of the Shadowlands is kind of like an interesting idea. We'll see how it plays out. I mean, obviously, no game is any good if you don't do it right. So that's why I'm like, okay, this is not bad. You've been listening to your crowd. You listen to your the people playing the game, both I hope the hardcore and the softcore raiders and players, and do this.
Right. Yeah. All right. So moving on to the next thing I see here, and this is just a quality of life change that I'm sure everyone will be appreciative of. They're going to be doing some looking for group updates that won't be launching with Shadowlands, but they will be changing when it comes to the UI of how you find people for Mythic Pluses.
Why even mention it? Why even mention it if you're
Uh,
not going to have a Shadowlands?
I don't know. I
They
think it.
want us
I
to
think
know
it was
they're working on
probably
it.
I think it was probably a question that was asked when it comes
Okay.
to third-party systems being so much cleaner to find people, and
Absolutely.
then like the systems they have right now just look
Okay.
atrocious. Um, and then it says you'll hopefully be able to search by the dungeon and key level instead of what people listed the dungeon as. So you actually be able to look for what you want rather than like starting to type it and hope that someone's already labeled theirs as, freehold 19. If it's not a freehold 19, it wouldn't pop up. So that's some quality of life changes when it comes to that. Mythic pluses. Did you guys get a chance to do Mythic pluses much?
Nope.
No.
Was I? Fuzz would know. You would know. Yeah, I think I was there at the end, right? The
I
last
think
2 or 3 months. I didn't
I
get as
can't remember.
far. I didn't get as far as you and that group did, but I can't remember what key I got up
I
to.
can't
It
think
was like
so.
9 or 10 or something. Yeah,
So
it's been a while.
let's see here. The next thing when it comes to you guys, because I see some other things like PvP, you guys don't do PvP, but something we can briefly mention is PvP. They're wanting PvPers to feel like they're going to be about 95% of the power if you only focus on PvP. Now, this is just written, and I don't have the broader context. If they mean in like all aspects of the game, if you only focus on one, because the next one is it says WoW is a large game, and there should be a slight edge for those who can show mastery in multiple fields, which I agree with, depending on what you're doing. If they mean you're going to be 95% strong, and then someone could be 100% strong in arenas, them's fighting words. If you mean just world PvP, battlegrounds, dungeons, and raids, if someone is a 2500 PvP, rating, and they mythic raid and they mythic plus 30 and time it, that they're going to be stronger than someone who only does PvP. If that's what they're saying, I think I agree with this.
Well, it makes
But how
sense,
do you
right?
guys?
I mean, why
Yeah.
not? I mean, why not? If you're someone gearing toward PvP and you get into a PvP and you're fighting someone who has basically been doing a lot of PvE, of course you should get like a extra bonus because you did the extra work.
Right. To that I understand, but I think I need more clarification that they mean in certain instances, because I think that arenas is more tailored around trying to be around skill rather than gear,
Mhm.
because it's trying to be more, I don't want to say esports, but it's kind of
Yeah.
entering the domain of esports where you're trying to eliminate all the variables.
Right.
Even though it's an MMO, the variables are eliminated when you get to the tournament realms, but not so much on the ladder, is what it's called when you play live. When it comes to conduits, apparently there was a problem in the beta or the alpha where they were stacking. So where if you like stacked certain conduits into the soulbind, that it would like 10-20% buff things rather than 10-11 or 10-12. It was multiplicative. Words are hard. It was multiplying the amounts is what it basically is. And Ian was saying he's not 100% sure if that's what is supposed to be happening or not. Um, but the next thing that we can all talk about that I think I want to go to is they're moving into the beta and they're talking about problem classes. So moving into the beta, problem classes are going to be a thing, but it doesn't mean that they're done with class design and that they're only doing numbers, which we hear every single time there's a beta. There's the people out there who are saying, oh, they're only going to tweak the numbers. They're not going to tweak class design. They're not going to touch talents.
Okay.
And Ian is saying they can still touch that, but that there won't be a fundamental overhaul, meaning that there's going to be changes in the abilities, talents, and adding abilities. But it doesn't mean that they're going to take, say, balance druids and go, you know what? We're not going to go back to that. We're going to keep the BFA balance druid and not go back to the original, Burning Crusade balance druid. So how do you guys feel? I'll start with Ken this time. How do you feel about them saying and kind of pre-framing, hey, don't be scared. We could still change basically everything with classes.
Well, that's good because the one thing about beta, alpha is one thing, but beta is when you start locking things down, and as you get the players will do things that the devs will never have thought of, and you run along, and all of a sudden you find that someone's going to be OP, and that gets out, and then people are going to say, that's the class I'm going to play at the beginning of the expansion, and all of a sudden everyone's streaming that class, and no one's playing anything else, and it's like, then it's like, well, now I got to balance it with patch, 9.1 or 9.2. It's like the fact that they're doing it now is good because why wait? I know they're locking down. I know they want to lock down, but they're in beta now. If they're going to do this in the fall, so the fall is what usually like September, October, November ish.
September through December.
Okay, so then you're like beta is going to be happening now in July. The game will probably come out, say, at least September, October, got 7 months. So why not? Can you imagine telling that right now? Oh, no, we're good. Just numbers now. You got 3 months, dude. You can't be changing other stuff along the way in case this comes crap, like other expansions.
Ooh. Yep, kind of like they were warned about Affliction Warlocks going into Legion, and
thank you.
They were awful, and they still are awful.
Being warned, and yeah, interesting.
How do you feel about that, JahzealAnd? How do you feel about them pre-framing and saying, "Don't panic. If something's broken, we could fix it"?
I didn't want to be rude about it by saying no duh, but it should be a given that alpha is building the skeleton, beta is putting the meat on that skeleton, and then as you get closer to release, hopefully by the time you get released, you've got the skin on top and it's in the hair and it's looking all pretty. At least that's the way it should work. So yeah, like I said, not to be rude about it, but that's the way it's supposed to work. You've got the foundation there, but you're still tweaking it. You're still making sure that there's really some meat in there, and it's all going to work and stretch and bend like it's supposed to. And hopefully, by the time that it gets released, I'm still thinking this is November, December release, but maybe sooner. I know that was it Amazon I saw? One of the sites I saw was saying no later than December 31st. So
well, that's in the year, yeah.
Yeah, it's like
that's typical default, I think.
And that's only because they promised the stockholders during their stock call earlier this year when I got to be on that call too. But
they're contractually obligated because when we all pre-ordered, it says by this year.
Right. So that's pretty much the long and short of it. That it's just they're gonna try to make things better right now. They've got the foundation down, and now they're gonna make it pretty for us. Hopefully, like you said, hopefully it's a lot more finished than than we've seen recently in recent expansions.
Right. And that kind of leads into the second one. So we're going to start on the second link I sent you guys. And the main thing I wanted you guys' thoughts on this is, can you guys remember an expansion where the developer, the lead developer, is asking on Twitter how people would feel about a legendary recipe? So they're asking for input on what what the pulse is of the community of how they feel like they should earn this thing, and would they like it to be unlocked in this way or that way. Can you guys remember an expansion where they were doing this kind of almost like Disney does, to where they like reach out to their community and say, hey, play this, and like, do you like this? What do you like about it? What do you not like about it? Well, what do you think about this or that? Do you remember, Ken, an expansion where they kind of check the pulse of the community?
Beyond just like an alpha beta comments threads type stuff.
Right. Like, I can't remember in BFA them reaching out and asking these kinds of questions.
What's interesting is that, having been involved, with New World recently with the alpha and the beta coming out, and the devs actually coming into people's chats and people who show the game, that to me is level of involvement that was pretty impressive. And I mean, Twitter hasn't been around forever. I can't really answer this question. I don't know how much I've kickstarted a bunch of games. I've been at TwitchCon and I've been at PAX, and I've seen where devs are actually talking to people directly all the time, getting the pulse of the game. Whether it's even like CEO for like Ashes of Creation. So you're talking about just Blizzard itself. I'm like, if they are, then kudos for them. Good. They're doing the right thing, because they're trying hard to make sure this doesn't fail, because they knew that BFA didn't quite live up to expectations, and they know the ups and down curves. So let's make it right.
Right. Okay. Jaziel, can you think of a time when they reached out like this? Because this is, and I sent you guys this. This isn't the only tweet. I keep following and stalking these guys on Twitter, and they're asking for feedback. They're asking, hey, what legendary abilities do you want back? What do you think, Jaziel? You remember?
This is the first time that they've been that I've seen that amount. However, I do recall during the beta testing of Mists of Pandaria, when they had that big steep drop of subscribers, that they did come out of the woodwork, so to speak, and start asking around. But since then, no, not even close.
Right.
So I'm trying to think, man. I don't, the level that they've been coming out is a lot greater, and that is good to see.
Yeah.
That's
I
really
mean,
good to see.
in light of, I think, in light of what we've seen in Legion, coming out of Legion or into Legion, when it comes to Legion's beta and alpha, and the beta and alpha now of BFA, of them kind of getting a stigma as a company and being lumped in with Activision, who is socially dead to the pulse of their communities. I think that Ian, in coming back to be the main developer, is trying to shift the boat towards being more community driven.
Yeah.
It kind of seems that way to me. So I wanted to see if you guys remembered that when it comes to this bit of news and these tweets, that maybe there's more hope, and maybe if they don't get everything right at the launch of Shadowlands, they have actually said a couple of things like covenants. They said that while they want to lock you in, if the community says that they hate it, they'll allow you for covenant swapping. They don't want it as the first option on the table. But with those kinds of statements, it isn't like you think you want it, but you don't.
Oh
It
boy.
isn't like that anymore, it seems. So that's something that's pretty cool. Moving on to the last one. And I don't know if you guys got a chance to read on the legendaries in Shadowlands. But when it comes to the legendaries in Shadowlands, and what I wanted to bring up here is, let me grab the. They said that they're not going to be going back to the old way of things dropping, right? So when it comes to old World of Warcraft, you would have 3 to 4 things drop on a boss. You roll for it independently. Your guild leader or someone, the loot master, will divvy it out. But what they're keeping with is this idea of personal loot and the tradability. But the thing that I wanted to go off of is this quote right here, and I'll put it in the chat. They say that the exact quantities are still evolving. So please don't quote me on this 100%, or please don't quote me 100% on this. But notably, for Mythic Plus, it will be one item from the end of the run chest that's repeatable. So you're guaranteed one item. The weekly loot chest will have a greater selection of items to choose from, still one a week. But that should be a more reliable source of upgrades, since you can best pick one that suits your needs out of a wider range of things that you've earned. So, how do you guys feel if they're going to a more repeatable Mythic Plus system, to where you can actually try to get the gear that you want by repeatedly running the dungeon? Maybe you have 4 or 5 items that drop from it. So your luck, you got a 25% chance of getting the actual thing you want. You have really bad luck and you have to do it all day, but you end up getting it. How do you guys feel about that possibly being the new way of doing it, rather than running an instance and getting no loot at all?
Isn't that the way it used to be? And I mean, so mind you, I took a break from WoW, so I think I last played. I didn't play Legion, didn't play BF, even though I bought these. Okay, I didn't play BFA Legion. Before that was Draenor, was Warlords of Draenor, I think. So I, when you said all this, I'm like, that's the way it used to be. You go into a dungeon, you get at least a drop of something. It may not always be what you wanted. Sometimes you can then, before you actually soulbound it, so to speak, you could give it to somebody. You can say, hey, I got this drop. You want this? Oh yeah, sure, thank you. It's like, so is this like an old thing coming back, or am I missing something?
From what it seems like to be a mixture. So instead of bringing back group loot and master loot, what they're doing is saying, no matter what, you're going to get a piece of loot at the end of the dungeon.
Which is good, yeah.
But it could be, because it's Mythic Plus, it could be the bracers from the first boss. It could be the weapon from the second boss. It could be the cloak from the third boss. But you always get something.
Okay.
Whereas right now, they have it to where you could do the whole Mythic Plus,
get nothing,
and you could get nothing from a Mythic Zero.
That's good. I mean, this is maybe it's a combination of what we saw in the past and an improvement to making sure that you don't feel like you just wasted your time.
Right. And it seems like a balance of those two things, but it seems like they're trying to make you feel like, because it says they're trying to give you a more reliable source when it comes to the weeklies. So I don't know if you guys knew this, but the weeklies are going to have multiple things in the chest that you pick from. So when you finish let's say you do a Mythic 7, you're going to get, I'll just use, they haven't said it, but you get 7 different random pieces you get to choose one of. Whereas right now you just get, here's this wrist and it's awful and it just Titan forged, but you don't need it. And it's got terrible secondary stats, but you can't use it. So you go vendor it. Jahzeal, how do you feel about them? Because you played through more than Ken did. How do you feel about them moving towards a system where they maybe give you 7 random things and at least maybe half of them are good?
I think it's probably a move in a good direction. it seems like I'd heard something as well, that once you receive that item, that there's a far decreased percentage that you're going to receive that again, which also was an issue before. So I'm for it. I hope it's not just going to be a gumball machine and just hand us everything we need in like 6 runs or 8 runs or whatever.
Right.
Because I mean, yeah, I don't want to take away that feeling of achievement from people, because that makes for really boring gameplay. But then for someone like I was saying in chat earlier, I have horrible RNG. I don't know if it's the worst. I say it's the worst. I've heard other people that have been looking for things that I've already got. So it depends. Although I still don't have Ashes of Alar, probably never will. I don't even want to write it. I just want it in my collection.
There you go.
Yeah, it's just. I think it's a move in the right direction, especially for me. I'm going to be a little bit greedy here and say I'm all for it, because that kind of cuts some of that RNG out of it, maybe, and will allow me to gear up and stay caught up again. That's another one of those things where it helps me be caught up to the rest of you guys and gals, if there's gals in here. I don't know.
I mean, it's always hard to run anything and then you do the whole thing and you get nothing. Now, we've been there.
Yeah.
We've been there so many times in the past, and not just this game, but other games too. It's like even back in the day when basically you had all the loot go to we got a Guardian raid from Grid. Hey, you guess at the end, the loot, the guy who ran the raid had all the loot, and you had to roll. They had certain loot tables, as well as how much have you been there. I forget what it's called, the EMP. I forget what's So one viewer raid. So I don't know. To me, these are to me stepping stone improvements. Again, like Gotfuz said earlier about listening to the community, that these are the positive signs that Blizzard seems to have turned, at least, well, maybe temporarily turned a corner and shown that they are actually trying to listen to the community about what they want and try to make improvements that will actually be good for the game and good for everybody involved, and saying, hey, coming back to WoW, we've done these good things.
Right. Yeah, I agree. And one of the things for me that I like that they said is that the weekly chest, right? The weekly chest is going to also have, if you don't like any of the things in it, it's going to have a currency that you could select that you'll be able to get enough of to get something you do like. So I'm hoping that maybe just maybe, if people don't like this enough and they complain enough, that we might get Valor and Justice back like we had in Wrath of the Lich King.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So that's what my hopes are. My hopes are people still hate it, and that they give their feedback to Blizzard, and Blizzard goes, well, we made a move towards, going back to these systems we had in place. And the reason we went away from them was because of it's really hard and people pick the wrong gear on accident, and then they perform worse. And it's like,
yeah,
well, we live in a different era now. We live even when that came out, and Cataclysm heading into Mop. No, it was Mop heading into, no, it wasn't even then. It was Legion. We still had Google. We had Icy Veins. We had Wowhead. All of these things. So making the game less complex, I think, is like the dumbest move to make when you have games like Final Fantasy 14, Path of Exile, these very complex games. All you need to do is kind of like they're doing, make a introductory level 1 through 10 dungeon to teach you how to play the game.
Which they're doing, I've heard, right? That's what they're intending on doing. I mean, it's well, the ESO does that. It was interesting. I actually, really cool. I was just thinking about the fact that SirJahzeal mentioned lore early on. I remember when I first find out about lore because he was doing these videos. Him and his guilds were doing videos about how to run through dungeons and showing you over and over again. You're right. I mean, you don't have to make it so easy for people when you have such a wide array of resources these days. I mean, I still have my old books from Markets of Camelot as well as WoW, the books you buy to flip through it to find out information because there was no internet back then. I mean, you had dial up, okay? Maybe you had the early Prodigy or the early days of AOL, but you didn't have all these people doing these guides.
Right.
That's a good point. I mean, there are different, like you mentioned, several games out there intending on trying to make the game harder. When people don't go play, because people I've asked for them, I want the game used to be a grind, not a grind, but just a harder game to play that wasn't so easy for anybody to come in and just level up. Markets of Camelot, you had to group up. I remember there was the story about one person who actually leveled up to 50 with ever not being in a group. And we're like, wow, how do you do that? Because the grind is terrible, okay, for EXP when you're just doing it by yourself. But in a group, man, you sweetness.
Right. And when I think of games trying to dumb it down for their audience and play towards the casual who's going to play anyway, it doesn't matter how hard the game is. I think of games that are successful that like recently just launched. Valorant, games that have been out for a long time. League of Legends, go try to jump into that game as a new player. Have fun. You're going to get your face stomped like I did. It does not hand you anything. There are some tutorials and you could play against AI, but you're going to get your face stomped.
EVE Online is even worse.
Yeah. EVE Online, you do not get your hand held at all. But people love it because they see that, well, the gap between me and the top is so tremendous, but it's not the destination of getting to the top that's the fun part. It's the journey to the top. And that's what Blizzard has kind of done, is by lowering the ceiling to get to the top, everyone gets bored. Like right now, they said that in one of the recent interviews, and I'd like to get this and then we can get the closing thoughts after that, is that basically they said that there is an issue when the majority of your damage comes from passive abilities. Like Gushing Wounds was a passive proccing ability that did the majority of your damage, and you had to have it equipped.
Right.
And they said that's a big problem. So how do you feel about them maybe, especially with this tutorial, making the game complex again? Maybe even bringing back things like snapshotting. I don't know if you guys know what snapshotting is, but snapshotting is when your trinket procs, or you have an ability procs. Let's say you're a lock. Your trinket procs, it gives you 1,000 intellect. You throw a affliction out on someone, and now your affliction does more damage because your intellect is higher. And if you refresh that same affliction, then it will continue to do that higher damage even when that int proc falls off. Right now, it only does the high damage when the int proc is actually up on your character. And then once it falls off, your dots do noodle damage. How do you feel about complexity coming back? We'll start with Jaziel.
I'm all for it. Again, I am a big fan of min-maxing and trying out different things. I loved snapshotting back when we had it. Of course, I I understand it was getting abused. I wouldn't call it being abused. It was part of the game. It was part of the way that it worked. And if you knew how to really, again, min and max and really push your character for every bit of DPS that you can put out, or HPS, it worked for the healers as well, then kudos to you. You're going to be more wanted for raids, more wanted for going and doing dungeon runs and world bosses and all the other things that come with that. You put in the extra work of studying and trying to figure out how it worked, and that's skill. and it's more skill based than, yeah, it's more timing, and yes, you can probably, well, not probably, there's add-ons that quasi automated, and put the little things up on the screen, tell you when to do it and whatnot. But I love being able to eke out that little bit more, and so I'm all for it, really. I have read people that are against it, and I understand why they feel that way, but I don't necessarily feel that way. I like being able to go in there and really do something unique with my character and try different things.
Right. I agree.
Yeah.
I like it.
Everyone wants it easy, but we all know that it was
Well,
made too easy. It gets boring. Don't get me wrong. I mean,
Right.
like there's a challenge involved. There's a challenge when you keep playing Jedi Fallen Warrior. Keep over and over again, just dying on some of these bosses. That thrill of victory. Or the biggest thing I say is when we did the Lich King, and I know that by the time we did it, they already dumbed the world down because they have world what's that, not bonuses that gave you built, but still
Yeah,
over and
percentage.
over and over again that feeling of finally downing the Lich King, and that the hooray, that feeling that will always will stick with me is like what's my highest point of the game. It's because it was hard, not because it was easy. We don't do these things because it's hard. No, we don't do these because it's easy. We do it because they are hard. So as a quote from John F. Kennedy, like going to the moon, okay? But that's where it's like a lot of us who like, well, I want it easy, but I want to spend time, but I want to get it hard enough so I can feel like an accomplishment.
well, you can do it easy. Just do LFR. I
Yeah.
mean, that's the thing, is they have made it to where you can kind of pick the level of play that you want to do. And if you want to be just a guy that hops on and you've got a couple of hours and that's it, and you want to go run the new tier, a couple of weeks after everyone else has played it that went to normal, that option is there for you.
Yep.
You can go do LFR and just basically stomp on them like they're snails underneath Doc Marten boots, And if you want to, challenge yourself, and you can go normal, you can go heroic, you can go mythic. And so they've made it available for you to do it. Now, you're right. Most people are just going to do LFR and be satisfied with it. That's how I feel right now anyway. But
Yeah.
I
fair.
really, yeah. Yeah, we'll leave it at that.
Yeah, I was thinking it was either the Infinity Bro podcast or the Chick Cave podcast talking about taking a character or maybe it was the Massively OP podcast. They had a character leveling up really fast because they were a healer. Yeah, Massively OP. It was Justin who talking about leveling a character up by being a healer and just running dungeons all the time, over and over again. So that's fine. Chain healing, getting it all done, getting it worked, that's fine. I mean, I like. That's why I think the biggest thing about any game is if you have a variety, if you can have a variety, those who want it hard, those who want it easy. But the problem is when you dump it down too much. It makes it too easy, where it's like nobody gets a chance to have a challenge. Like that when you open Shadowlands up, there are going to be the guilds out there. They're going to try to be server first and world first. And I hope it's not done in 2 days. Level up, run it down, be done 2 days. It'd be nice if it could say it'd be done in whatever they're doing. That's going to be the first expansion of Shadowlands. Whatever will take, I don't know, take a month. Let's say, I don't know.
People are going to be playing this game for like 8 hours. So
I
8
know.
hours a day, 8
I
to 10
know.
hours a day.
We know people that are saying they're going to 24-hour this when it comes out.
I'm gonna do it at launch, but yeah,
I don't see. That's
go with you there.
That's the biggest problem. I know it's a closing thing, but the biggest thing I had a problem with that video, it made me less wanting to get Shadowlands than before.
Well, hopefully I can make you want it more.
I'm probably still gonna get it. I still need to know the date. I do not have a desire to play beta. I have other games to play. And plus, I'm going to be playing beta for New World, July 23rd. So, I don't know.
Well, yeah.
You should here's what I'll say, and then we'll go into the one. You should play the beta the week before it launches.
Fair
And
enough.
the reason I say that is
Get you some ideas.
You can feel
Yep.
how basically everything is going to feel at launch. Then you watch the patch notes for when it goes live. Oh, it's going live. Nothing changed on my class. I know who I want to play. So that's what I typically do. Is I'll play
Sure.
I'll make a whole bunch of characters, one of each class, see who feels the best. And the one time I didn't do that is when I played a warlock in Legion, and it was awful. So now we'll end with this. I'm going to ask both of you, and I guess I'll conclude. I'll ask both of you guys. You're going to have 3 different things. The first thing you're going to have is one thing you're worried about. The second thing is you're going to have one thing that you're hoping they do in Shadowlands, but you haven't seen them directly say it. Maybe they hinted at it or didn't even hint at it at all. And one thing that you're most excited that they have said. So I don't know who I went to last, but whoever has it, one thing first is that you're worried about.
I think for me, the worry is about anything that's coming out of Blizzard. You know, I mean, I subbed 6 months to BFA thinking I'm going to be playing this game for a while. Everyone's, it's going to be great. It all showed good. And then it didn't, and it's like, really? I mean, I started doing, I hadn't even got to BFA. I was doing Legion first, just get caught up on the whole thing. And then it's like,
that's right.
And Legion's supposed to be good, which is fine. But all my friends started leaving, and I was like, okay, there goes that. So much for that. That's why I was excited about WoW Classic. Fine, we'll do that WoW Classic. Then, yeah. So one thing they haven't shown yet that I would like is, I guess, is the fact that I'm hoping there'll be, for me, something similar to what Lich King had. Something that would knock my socks off with a raid that would just blow me away, and I'll have another memory to add to my thing. The biggest thing I saw at BlizzCon when they showed this last year, what got me was seeing Sylvanas go to Icecrown Citadel. I'm like, what? I'm sitting there going, wait a minute. And then seeing the Lich King, and then her oh my gosh, I'm like, I was just so excited about this because I'm like, oh my gosh, Lich King's back. So, that's the part that I'm excited about, is that they do show the Lich King being back in Sylvanas and that whole thing. And I'm curious to know what they're going to do with the lore, because they said someone always has to sit on the throne. Okay, and now that you unleash the hordes, what's going to happen? I mean, obviously BFA, we saw all the Sylvanas was doing. If you've never played the game, you can see all the movies, all the trailers. But by the way, Blizzard does a great job with cinematic trailers. So I'm hoping that we'll have a closer of the story here and get a really good lore. So that's what I got.
Okay. And Jahzeal, how about you? Starting off with what you're worried about.
Well,
He's like, pick one, huh?
Well, again, I always start out on these shows trying to be optimistic, and then my real self just comes out. So there's more than one thing that I'm concerned about, but I think the main thing that I'm concerned about is that there are a lot of major changes happening with player characters.
Yeah.
And I am, one thing that they've said not to be worried about, that it's not going to be an issue, that I really am just going to have to wait and see, because I kind of think it's going to be more of an issue than what they're trying to get us to believe, is those of us who do like to go to old world content to get to try to get Ashes of Lar, or or mounts, pets, transmogs, or just to go run Tibble Thunder or whatever, Throne of Thunder with our buddies, just because one of them's missing one of the mounts or whatever. And I have a hard time believing that right out of the gate that it's going to be the same as it is right now, where you can run in there and pretty much, unless you get knocked off the wind bridge, which seems to happen to at least one or two people every time we go there. Um, you know, I really hope that those of us who enjoy going to old world content, that it is still accessible to us at max level, that we are still going to be able to go achieve those goals, and especially for achievement hunters, which again is a well, I don't even know why I say this, but you guys already know me. You know, I'm 100%er. I'm doing that right now with ESO. I have to do everything. And so I like to have all the achievements, all the mounts, all the pets, all the transmogs, and I'll never have it because the game, they just keep adding more and more. I'll never reach that goal, which is actually the fun part about it. But I really hope that I can still go and get all of those achievements and whatnot as well. So that is a I'm saying it right now and it sounds even silly to me. So if you guys want to laugh about that, go ahead. I understand. It does sound kind of silly to me to be a worry, especially after they have said, don't worry about it. It's going to be fine. For whatever reason, I'm worried about it. I don't think it's going to be fine because they've made so many changes and
That is
crunching
a
all
good
of
point.
this. I see how they could be right, but I'm very skeptical. And it kind of goes with what Ken just said. It's Blizzard, and for as much as they get right, they get wrong sometimes, especially right at the very beginning of an expansion. Things are normally screwed up right at the beginning. Now, they do eventually fix it, usually by the third patch, but sometimes before. Sometimes before. I still love the game. I'm looking forward to it. Now, as far as what I'm most looking forward to, I will say it again. I love the lore. I love the story. I I have bought all the Chronicles books. I bought all the books written by other authors, you know, and I just love the World of Warcraft. I love the Warcraft lore, the story, and I'm looking forward to seeing what this is all about, what's going on, what's up Sylvanas' sleeve, and who this jailer is. Although there's been some supposed leaks and whatnot that some of them are kind of far out there, and some of them, but one in particular, I won't do any spoilers here on this show, but there's one in particular that I'm kind of buying, and if it is the person that they're saying it is, I'm really excited for that, and I'm looking forward to seeing. Since we're going to the land of the dead, it's going to be kind of nice to see people like Uther and
Ooh,
yeah,
yeah.
some of those guys and gals
Ooh,
that have passed on before us.
oh
Be kind of
yeah.
cool to see what's going on with them. Did they get trapped in the maw, you know, and are they outside of it? Are they going to be helping us along the way? What's going on with that? So, as far as something that they haven't told us about or much about, um, I can't really. That was the one I was stumbling on, and like I hope Ken goes first because I don't know what I'm going to say about that one. And I still, even after he spoke, hopefully he says something that kind of sparks it in my head. Oh yeah, they didn't say anything about this, but I can't really think of anything. Uh, I was kind of hoping because they're redoing the. I'm going to get a bunch of cringes here. They're going to do mobile anyway. We already know
Oh,
that. They already
yeah.
said they're doing it for the well, now they're calling them something else. It's not the mission table. It's now adventures, right? Is that what they're
Right.
calling them now?
I don't
Okay, so they're
remember the exact name, but I know what you're talking about. It's
yeah, it's
basically Final
adventures. Well,
Fantasy now.
why exactly? Um, if they're gonna continue doing that, you might as well add pet battles on there. I mean, I'm really digging. I'm really digging at the bottom of the barrel, guys. You can tell, right? I'm really digging at the bottom of the barrel for
So
something they haven't said
let
that.
me get this right. Uh, They're gonna add an 8-bit version of World of Warcraft where you can run around and pet
Yeah.
battle.
No, just do the pet battle. It's just pet battles. That's it. And you can either do your adventures, whatever they're calling them. It's a mission table all over again. We all know that. I don't care what they call them. A rose is a rose by any other name, right? I mean, that's
Mhm.
what Shakespeare said, and I believe him. He was kind of kooky, but I believe him. Anyway, so if they're gonna keep doing the app thing, because we've all got phones. I mean, I guess I
Yeah.
got one. They might as well add some more to it than just that, and being able to look at what our dailies are and the roadmap, and do something more with it. I think they could. Dude, I feel so stupid even mentioning pet battles. Oh, I'm going to get called names in chat. No one said anything yet, so maybe I'm safe.
You might be
But
sleeping. You might wake them up.
yeah,
Pet
I just
battles.
there was a rumor going around just before the announcement was made for Diablo that's still not out. What happened to that?
Portal.
They probably found out that was spyware, right? Just like TikTok. Gosh,
Well,
that's a good question.
wait.
Who's doing the
The Diablo mobile never came out yet?
no?
Immortal?
The
No,
big
it's not.
crap they gave a couple years
It's
ago at
supposed
Blizz? Oh,
it's
interesting.
supposedly been done for like a year and a half, and they haven't released it for some reason.
Wonder why.
Yeah,
Because
it's
I think it's
Yeah.
being made by Tencent, and Tencent's a
Chinese company.
China.
China.
Well, no, you can play it now. You can play it download for Android or iOS right now, it says.
Huh?
Diablo Immortal
No.
is out, yeah.
What are you talking about?
Right here. It's from NetEase, but yeah.
You're
People
a
play that
Oh,
game.
wait. Coming. Being developed. Coming to this
See,
stuff.
you
Well, but there's a button
fibber.
here that says download for Android. I'm sorry.
You're not going to be on our show anymore. I'm just
Sorry,
kidding.
never mind.
So you
Fake
want
news. Fake
you heard-
news.
fake news. So you want a
I-
Pokemon World of Warcraft
okay.
with mission tables 8-bit, but it's like it's
Yeah.
Azeroth, but it's
Yeah.
8-bit Azeroth.
They might as well add it to the app. I don't know, man. I was digging for. I
You
was
may as
really
well like
digging.
rip it like all the way from Pokemon to
Well-
have the whole layout look just like Pokemon, but it's Blizzard stuff on it.
Well, just make
There
it
you
like WoW Go or something, where you just you just roam around your neighborhood.
Yeah,
and you just-
I mean, make it a WoW. So go find your WoW guy, okay?
yeah.
Just the exact same game, just an overlay of World of War. I mean, hey, every other app is doing that.
I
That's
mean,
right.
Why not?
they've been doing that for years. Look at all the different Bejeweleds and all the different Candy Crushes, and of course
Right.
that's Bejeweled, right?
All
Yeah.
right,
So
well,
I mean, they're already
appreciate-
doing that, and that's what Tencent is known for: is taking the code from another company and changing the graphics a little bit, and then putting their own name on there and taking the money. So, I
All
mean,
right.
why not? Why not? Oh,
But
I know.
God-
I know. We're gonna get China's gonna ban us.
All right, Gotfuz, what was your answers to these questions?
Yeah.
Okay, so one thing that I'm worried about is there's a lot that I'm worried about, but the worst thing that I'm
Same.
worried about when it comes to this game is that borrowed powers will again be like super essential. So borrowed powers being the covenant abilities and all that is that's gonna feel like if you don't have certain ones, like even though they're saying that they're going to balance them and be pretty close, but in some situations some will be a little better. I don't nope. Not signing on for that. Don't believe that. Worried about that. Because there are going to be
Template
certain
again.
abilities. Yeah, it's going to be certain abilities that are just like outright 100% always better.
Yeah.
In every situation. And even in other situations. So I feel like that's what I'm worried about is these borrowed powers. That we got another kind of thing where first it was legendaries, and now then it was the artifact weapons, and then the essences, and now this. I'm worried and done with that. One thing I'm hoping for, but I haven't seen them directly say it, is snapshotting. I want snapshotting back and just complexity in general. I want the game to be hard or really a high skill cap, like easy entry, high skill cap game. Something like Valorant is a prime example of it's easy entry. The fundamentals are easy, but in order to play at its highest level, you have to put in the time, you have to put in the work, you
Right.
actually have to
Practice.
break it down and practice. And then one thing I'm most excited about is man, it's hard. It's like a toss up. I'm excited for feral druids to go back to bleeds. It seems that they're making big pushes for feral druids to be bleed centric again. And while I like big, juicy, ferocious bites to one shot people, I liked more to be able to rot people down with bleeds. And if they were to enhance that shotting, then going back to a feral comp in World of Warcraft to where you could put your bleeds on everybody and they just start rotting to death, that would be great. But I think that that's what I'm most excited for, and the fact that they're just, I will squeeze in one more thing, that they're actually looking like they're listening. They're actually
Yeah.
listening for once.
So true. Yeah. That shows you how long I haven't played the game, but I didn't realize that you didn't have bleed anymore from the feral druids.
You do, but they hit like a wet noodle.
Okay, because I used to play a druid, bear, and cat.
That's
Yeah.
why I stopped playing druid and went to the warlock. It's because they were nerfed so bad that
oh, sorry.
Oh no, go ahead.
So what if? So I would ask you a question. What if this happened? What if the New World and Shadowlands both actually released on the same day? Which game would you play?
Shadowlands, 100%. 100%. And here's why. Shadowlands is showed by looking at their community when it comes to Blizzard that they're trying to move the game towards a community pulse that they're trying to find that they had lost. They had lost where the pulse was, the game was dying, but they're moving towards that. And I see New World moving the opposite direction. And New World is starting to make the game less like they first caught everyone's attention which was you lose your items when you get killed. Everyone was like, man, there's high stakes now. It's PvP. Oh, it's high stakes. Oh no, now it's opt-in PvP. Oh, okay. Well, this game is fundamentally PvP. There's no dungeons, there's no raids, there's only world bosses and quests, and you have to opt into PvP. So I feel like they're dialing back their game from their core audience, whereas I feel like Blizzard is kind of trying to find their core audience again and get them back in love with the game. New World just seems to kind of be, they grabbed a core audience with that first initial announcement, and they've been kind of going towards a more casual release of a game.
So I expected you to say World of Warcraft, but you had a very reasoned reason, and that was well said. But you, SirJahzeal.
Honestly, at this point, I would say Shadowlands. I do appreciate what Amazon Game Studios is doing, and those are great guys and gals that are working on the game. What he said has been my feeling as well, that they do seem to be kind of searching for their identity. They had it at the beginning for sure, and now goodness, man, I do enjoy the game. As as everybody knows, I've been playing alpha for several months. I haven't been playing as much for the past month, just because I kind of felt like I'd done everything in there and tested out everything I wanted to test out and help them with. And I got more interested in Greymore expansion for our chapter for ESO, but I feel like New World is going to develop into a good game, but I'm not sure that it's going to release as feeling like a complete game that has direction yet, because the changes that were made have been so recent, and I do see where they're going. And as more of a PvE heavy and lore heavy MMO player myself, I kind of applauded it, but at the same time, I did feel pretty rotten and awful when reading the forums, all those people that were there because of the fact that they finally had a game that was for them, that was PvP, and it was brutal PvP. Like Gotfuz was saying, that you could go in there and brutalize someone and take their stuff, and I remember back, I'm going to date myself here, guys. When I first started playing EverQuest back in 1999, it was like that in PvP. If someone killed you, they could rob your corpse and they could take everything off of there. And they did the same thing. They changed it. And this is way back in 1999, 2000-ish. So again, that kind of goes with the theme that Ken and I have been saying, that you guys think this is new, but it's not. This has been done before.
Yeah.
I think that's even biblical. There's nothing new under the sun.
Yeah, that's
Seems
right.
like I heard that somewhere. So, I mean, if I was to choose, yeah, I would go with World of Warcraft. It's established. They do have a direction. Yes, it's continually being worked on. They're continually tweaking things. They're continually trying to change things, keep it fresh. It's 15-year-old. Well, it's over 15 years old now. And they're trying to keep it fresh and moving forward for all of us. And no matter if we are PvP or PvE or a little bit of both. And New World is just, you go in there and you can tell it was designed from the ground up to be a PvP heavy game. And they have added things for PvE folks to do, but there's no dungeons, there's no raids. Yeah, they've added world bosses now, which that's cool. They've added the world, although it could be argued that they were going to do this all along, that the mobs out there in the world could attack you as well and your fortifications. So you're worried about the world beating on you as well as the other players, which is a kind of, I don't know how unique it is, but because again, that's been done before too. But the way that they're doing it, it is a little bit different, and I appreciate it, but I definitely hear the complaints and understand why folks are dropping off, losing interest, that were in it because they wanted the PvP. They didn't want all this other PvE stuff added to the game, and I still would like to see them, add a server that you don't opt in. It's just full on PvP all the time. For those people, I think that's a good compromise, but they're saying they don't want to do that. So,
okay.
Yeah, I'm going to play both, honestly. But as I said on, when we were on Jafar's show, was it last week or the week before? Losing track of time, guys. That to me, New World is one of those games that you play 2 or 3 days out of the week for a couple of hours, and then you play something else. And that's how I'm feeling right now.
I would pick right now still New World because it's new. It's a new world. But ultimately, if say we did both game at the same time, and you guys, if you two went to Shadowlands, I would join you, just because I much enjoy playing with friends. More than the game. The game is not that bad, or that good at plus or minus that I would not join you on that thing. But overall, I would say right now, New World is new. It's new, and you guys have a lot more invested time in WoW than I do. I said I took I took a chunk of time off. Really not playing the game, now and then subbing, but not really playing it as much as you guys have. So I don't have as much more recent lore or memories of playing WoW. I played other games along the way. All right.
That's
Gotfuz, you got any last closing thing? This is basically you wanted to have this show. We did almost 2 hours worth of stuff here.
I know, right?
Closing
I could talk longer if you want.
We all could, but it's also probably bedtime too, but
right. So with this, I know I'm going to be doing when the game launches a 24-hour stream. So I invite anybody who wants to play, and it's kind of hit or miss what I'm going to be playing as. I'm probably, if it's a druid, going to be faction transferring my druid to the current server that I'm on, and faction transferring him to Horde. I know that everyone's playing on Horde, but kind of the final thoughts I have on this is, so far it looks like World of Warcraft Shadowlands is going in a positive direction from what we know of BFA. They've got a pulse on where the audience is. We are Christian gamers, though, so I would be remiss to not tell you that we do this as a means to get to know people, to have a good time, but also to share the fact that Jesus is the Christ. He is the Messiah. He lived a perfect life. He died on a cross and he rose on the third day so that anyone who believes in him as Savior and Lord can be saved from their sins, because we're all born in nature and deed as sinners in need of a Savior. So we'll game with you. We'll love on you. We'll be there for you to speak to if you need mental help or physical help. Just reach out to any one of us. But we'll also have fun playing World of Warcraft or a New World if you're Ken. And we'll have a good time while doing so. So, Ken, thank you for allowing me to kind of impromptu, I don't know, mug your stream.
Yeah, my train night.
Right, your train night. I mean, you could still play. I
No,
think you're typically still playing
bedtime.
by this
I
time.
know.
No?
That's
Oh
fine.
man, we kept the boomer up too late.